Hello everyone and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Oklahoma wheat producers have another option for fall planting. OSU's wheat improvement team has been working on the variety that's now called Bentley for more than a decade. To learn more, we caught up with our wheat breeding specialist, Brett Carver.
Quite a bit of work and quite a bit of time, and to be more specific on time, the number for Bentley was OK09125, so that means we started testing Bentley across the state in 2009. So we had some pretty rough years during that time span, and we've had a major drought, and some conditions that allowed us to develop a wheat variety that was adapted to those conditions, and that's what really inspired us to go with this variety.
Let's talk about those qualities a little bit more and why producers may want to consider it, especially in certain parts of the state.
Especially in certain parts of the state, that being starting with the southwest, well above average drought tolerance, which makes it really fit for that area of the state.
In terms of other qualities that Bentley has, what are you seeing?
I think of a couple things as key words that come to mind when I think of Bentley, besides being south and southwest and drought, but freeze. That's another climatic condition that we've had to experience and endure for several springs now, is these late winter, early spring freezes. And Bentley has been one to, for some reason, we're not really sure why, I wouldn't call it freeze tolerance per se, but resilience, to be able to produce grain after you would think a killing freeze or a killing frost. And then also leaf spotting diseases. When I think of Bentley, I think of leaf spotting diseases and the ability to tolerate those diseases. And this is an area that we really need improvement on. I admit duster and the lineage of duster doesn't give us strength in the area of tan spot, physiological leaf spot, and even some other diseases. We're not even sure what they are, but they occur and produce these leaf spotting symptoms. Bentley has really good adaptation and resistance to those diseases. I'm excited about that.
But like people, there's no perfect wheat variety either, so any potential drawbacks or things you're keeping an eye on?
Exactly, there's no perfect wheat variety, and this one's not perfect. In fact, this was part of the reason we delayed the decision on Bentley, is we wanted just to see how its test weight would respond to a diversity of conditions. And we can honestly say this is not our best test weight variety. This is not Ruby Lee. This is not Double Stop. Certainly not even Duster. This is probably about a pound lower than Duster. At least that's what we know from data from Oklahoma since 2009. Its test weight is going to be about a pound lower than Duster. So if Duster is at 61, Bentley's going to be 60, somewhere around there. And that is really the only characteristic that we had some reservations about, because we want to continue that tradition of high test weight varieties that we've already started. But we felt like these other good characteristics outweighed this one imperfection.
And speaking of tradition, the name Bentley, we've had some excitement around that, and that speaks to the history of OSU and Walter Bentley, correct?
Oh yes, it's a good opportunity to celebrate cooperative extension in this state and the 100-year anniversary of cooperative extension, that being 2014, but that's okay, we'll continue to celebrate that into the second century. And Walter Bentley was the one who started it, so it's a great time to honor that person.
Bentley is available for producers who want to give it a go this fall?
Certainly to seed producers, and those seed producers will be able to contact Oklahoma Foundation seed stocks to purchase foundation seed. But it's very important also to mention that this is a variety that, like all of our other varieties, most of our varieties have been licensed to Oklahoma Genetics. So that will be the organization that licenses and handles the distribution of seed of this variety as it makes it out into the state.
Well, Brett, congratulations to you and your team for all the hard work, and we look forward to seeing what's next.
I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet Weather Report. We racked up the hot days as July ended, but Wednesday that streak had its own end. On Wednesday, July 29th at 5:30, cooler air was west and north of a line from Medford to Woodward. Alva was the cool winner at 78 degrees. At the high end on Wednesday at 5:30, we still had 3 sites at 100 or higher: Tipton, Granfield, and Tallahena. For all of Wednesday, 10 Mesonet sites reached a high of 100 or more. How significant was the colder air flowing in from the northwest? In the 24 hours between Tuesday at 5:30 and Wednesday at 5:30, Alva had dropped 21 degrees. The line of cooler air went from Blackwell to Hinton to Tipton. So how are we stacking up on the count of days with highs of 100 or more? We've got 3 areas in the state with more hot days. In the Panhandle and Northwest, centered at Buffalo with 14 days. In the Southwest, Altus and Tipton have had 15 days. And then way off to the east, Tallahena and Worcester had 6 days at or above 100 degrees. Those hot days were stressing cattle. On a 10-day graph of the Cattle Comfort Index for Tallahena, we can see 10 days in a row when the Cattle Comfort Index was above 100. The tough part for the animals is that the nighttime Cattle Comfort Index stayed above 75. So cattle had to deal with hot days and warm nights, making it hard to recover from the heat. A longer graph for Tallahena shows how we had to go back to July 9th to find a day with a Cattle Comfort Index below 100. On this graph, the early part of July provided some relief. Towards the end of July, the Cattle Comfort Index at Tallahena just kept climbing. The good news Wednesday evening at 6:30 was that the cooler air coming into the state was rapidly dropping the Cattle Comfort Index from the many sites above 100 in the bright red areas into the 70s and 80s in the yellow areas. The low was 66 at the new Mesonet Elk City site. The high was 107 at Mangum, Eufaula, and Veneta. This summer's high humidity has added to plant disease pressure. A map of peanut leaf spot infection hours shows the hot spots through Wednesday. Red areas had over 100 peanut leaf spot hours. In the yellow areas, the accumulated hours came in close to 80. Peanut leaf spot disease control is recommended when 36 infection hours have accumulated. The 7-day change in soil moisture at 10 inches pointed out the winners and losers for rainfall. The green areas had soil moisture levels increase, while the dark gray burgundy areas lost significant moisture through Tuesday at the 10-inch depth. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Mesonet Weather Report.
You may have seen the sugarcane aphid in your field across Oklahoma. And Tom, let's start with, what are sugarcane aphids?
Sugarcane aphid is a pest that we've seen since about 2013 that has come in and started really attacking sorghum throughout the southeast, into Texas, the Gulf Coast, and it gets up into Oklahoma for the last 3 years too. And it can cause some serious, when it gets going and gets built up, it can cause some serious yield loss and harvest problems both.
It basically eats the leaf? Is that where the problem is?
They have sucking mouth parts, so they're sucking plant juices,
right,
and they feed on the leaf. And as they're sucking the juices, they process them out the other end, and they drop honeydew on the leaves below them, which also causes problems with sooty mold and things like that building up on some of the leaves. But the biggest problem with this aphid is that it has a huge reproductive capacity, and so a producer can go out and maybe see a few one day and come back a week later, and there's a lot of them out there. They build up really quickly. I really encourage growers to be watching pretty carefully in their fields, especially as their sorghum's coming out, becoming heading, and all the way into just before harvest, they can be a problem.
It seems like in years past you've talked about a large swath of them moving through Oklahoma. Is that the case this year?
It's not. What we found this year is that they're more spotty. We don't exactly know why. We think maybe some of the early rains we had have dampened them. We didn't see buildup of populations down in the Texas Gulf Coast as early as we did this year, so we're kind of seeing them slowly move north. And when I look in Oklahoma sorghum fields, they're very spotty there. Sometimes I'll find them, they might jump counties and you'll find them in one county and you might not find them in others. And then you go to some counties farther north and you'll find them again.
So what are some of the things that producers can do now to get ahead of the sugarcane?
Well, definitely be watching their sorghum on a regular basis. One of the telltale signs of a sugarcane aphid infestation is that because all that honeydew, they're dropping that honeydew on the leaves right below them. They feed on the underside of the leaf and they drop that honeydew on the leaves right below them. So if you walk out in the field and you see some leaves that look like they've been varnished, you know, slick, really shiny varnish, that's a telltale sign that you've got sugarcane aphid. And if you grab the leaf above that, you'll probably find a pretty good sized colony because they just drop a lot of that honeydew.
So while producers are out in their field checking for that, there's also some other insects that they should be watching for.
Yeah, this is the time of year we've seen flights of fall armyworm and corn earworms. So I would encourage growers to go out and sample their fields for headworms too. From the time of flowering until soft dough stage, when the sorghum gets past soft dough, they're vulnerable to headworm damage.
Okay, thank you much, Tom. And for a link to some of the information about what we talked about today, including some fact sheets and some news releases, you can go to our website, sunup.okstate.edu.
This is the summer where we can utilize a management strategy to reduce our winter feed costs, especially if we're an operation that has an adequate amount of Bermuda grass available for utilization this summer and fall. We can stockpile some of that Bermuda grass as a winter feed, and I think really reduce our out-of-pocket winter feed costs. How do we go about stockpiling Bermuda grass? First of all, sometime during August, we probably need to go in and either cut and hay the Bermuda grass or heavily graze it to where it's cut down pretty short. Then apply about 50 to 100 pounds of actual nitrogen per acre on that Bermuda grass pasture. Then stay off of it until around the 1st of November and allow the growth to take place. As we then can turn cattle out onto that stockpiled Bermuda grass, we'll find that the protein content is really quite good. Research here at Oklahoma State University about 15 years ago looked at this concept and found that the protein of the Bermuda grass, even after frost, was really quite strong. In November, it was something in the neighborhood of 13 to 15% crude protein. A month later, it still held strong, someplace in the neighborhood of about 12 to 14% crude protein, even in January. The protein content of that stockpiled Bermuda grass was in the neighborhood of 10 to 11% crude protein. That supplies a lot of the needs of especially spring calving cows. You want to, I think, strip graze that stockpiled Bermuda grass to get the best utilization out of it. Perhaps put an electric fence across one area so that the cattle just graze one area at a time, and then when they get that down, move a little bit further into the pasture. Another tip is that starting in December, we had the best results with cattle performance by adding just 2 pounds of a high energy supplement, something in the neighborhood of 14 to 25% crude protein. Just 2 pounds per head per day helped improve the body condition of those spring calving cows. The last thing to keep in mind as you're running these cows out on this stockpiled Bermuda grass is make sure that you're providing free choice mineral mix. Something that's 6 to 9% phosphorus, has vitamin A included in it, as well as a trace mineral package. I think if you'll just take the time and the effort to stockpile some Bermuda grass this year, you can save some dollars in terms of haying and harvesting costs, let the cows do the harvesting, and some dollars in terms of supplement costs as we go through the winter. We look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Continued herd expansion is confirmed with the release of some new livestock reports. Daryl Peel is here to tell us about it. And Daryl, let's start out with the cattle inventory picture. What are you learning?
Well, the mid-year inventory report confirmed what we already knew. There were no real surprises in this report. You know, the estimated July 1 inventory of all cattle and calves was up 2.2%. The beef cow herd inventory, which is the one we've been watching most closely, was up 2.5% over a year ago levels. The number of beef replacement heifers was up 6.5%. So, you know, it builds on the expansion that we started last year. It really confirms that we're really right on track with the kind of herd expansion that we anticipated, and we've been seeing with other data, or indicated by other data, you know, in terms of reduced cow slaughter and reduced heifer slaughter.
In looking at that, what kind of thoughts do you have then more long term?
Well, I think what this says is that we've probably turned the corner here with cattle numbers getting tighter. You know, we had a bigger calf crop last year. We're going to start seeing those calves show up in feeder supplies and ultimately in beef production. The estimated feeder supplies, when you go through the inventory categories and calculate that, is up about 1.8%. So we're still saving heifers, which moderates that initial growth in the calf crop. But what it means is that we're going to transition from many years of herds getting smaller and numbers getting smaller into one where numbers are getting bigger, and that means we're going to have to approach our price expectations a little bit differently. We're going to build some price pressure over time.
What did the cattle on feed report then tell you?
You know, the monthly cattle on feed report shows that we have a slight increase in beef cow numbers, or cattle numbers, in the feedlot. There was a slight increase in placements, but you know, over the last several months we've placed less cattle in the feedlot. So numbers in terms of overall you know, feedlot production is still down. That's confirmed in the slaughter, that so far this year is down about 6.8% for all cattle, about 6.5% for steers and heifers. So again, at this point in time, beef production continues to get tighter. That longer term picture that we just talked about means that, you know, that will change over the next few months, really into 2016 and on into 2017. We'll begin to see an increase in beef production. But in the short run, beef production continues to get smaller.
And then in terms of what producers may need to do for the rest of the year, what kind of advice do you have for them?
Well, you know, again, we've probably seen the peak in feeder cattle prices in particular. And so we're going to, you know, I don't see big pressure building on those prices. We're going to have good, strong prices. Cow-calf producers will be looking at prices that are probably down a little bit from a year ago levels this fall, but not down significantly. We're still going to see very strong cow-calf returns that are still supportive of this herd expansion that's going to continue for another year or two. On the stocker side, you know, moisture conditions are still pretty good. We've got a little ways to go to see exactly what we look like in the fall, but it looks like we have potential for some fall grazing, some wheat pasture, you know, conditions that are you know, reasonable. So producers will be penciling that out. And again, the main thing will be, you know, we're gonna be facing a little bit more price pressure over time. So you have to be a little more careful planning going in and be aware of that.
Okay, Daryl Peel, thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
It's been a bumpy few weeks for grain, and Kim, what's happening in wheat right now?
Well, if you look at, go back to June the 30th, wheat prices were $5.79. July the 30th, they were around $4.60, $4.65. That's a $1.14 decline in the wheat prices. Looking at that September contract on the KC contract, closed below $4.95. We've talked about that. There was very strong support. The next support level's down around $4.55. The good news there is that the volume was light, going below that $4.95. Next week, if we continue down, we're going to hit that $4.55. If we turn next week and hold that $4.95, then I think that'll be positive news for wheat.
Okay, a lot of the summer crops are actually looking good in Oklahoma right now. Let's start with corn. Are the prices following suit?
Well, you look at wheat and corn prices. The question is wheat prices following corn?
Right.
And I don't think so, because corn prices peaked out on July the 13th, where the wheat was June the 30th. On the 13th, corn prices, this is for new crop corn, was at $4.26. They've fallen off 75 cents over the last couple weeks down to $3.51. You look at the December corn contract itself, it's down around $3.60. It broke that $3.86 support. That's the bad news. It's got resistance at $3.86 and support at $3.62. With a big corn crop coming on, I can't see much happening in corn right now.
Okay, let's look at the Milo.
Milo is just 4 cents higher than corn. You know, we was about 20 cents higher, but that's backed off a little bit to around 4 cents.
Okay, soybeans, how are we looking in soybeans?
Soybeans are down also, and they peaked on July the 13th like corn did. This is the new crop contract at $9.39. That's pretty much all over Oklahoma, the entire region. Right now, they've fallen down to around $8.58. That's an 81-cent decline in the soybean prices. But you know, when you're talking about near $10, 9 or 10 bucks, that 81 cents is not near as powerful as the $1.14 on wheat. Looking at the CBT November soybean contract, it at 9.45, 9.46, got support at 9.30, so you're only another 15 cents away from that, and resistance at 9.80.
Okay, should Oklahoma producers be marketing their corn, wheat, or soybeans right now?
Well, it's depending on how much risk they can take.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm looking at wheat around 40 cents risk on that wheat, down to that 4.55. There's 90 cents total risk if things really go bad. We could go down another 90, say before next March or April. There's a potential 80-cent increase in prices if we start losing some crops in Australia, Argentina, European Union. If we lose a significant number, we could gain $1.20. Right now, it looks like we're awash in wheat and not much potential there.
Well, Kim, what about corn?
Well, if you look at corn, I think there's probably around 45 cents, maybe 60 cents downside risk and a 75 upside potential. We're having a big corn crop coming on, so probably going to stay right in the area it's in. Beans, you got 90 cents downside risk. Total risk of around $1.90 and a $3 upside potential.
Okay, thank you much, Kim. Grain marketing specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Finally today, we take you to the stream bank restoration project at Cow Creek, where tomorrow scientists are confirming their career choices. Here's SUNUP's Dave Deacon.
This project is a National Science Foundation funded what's called a research experience for undergrads, or it's commonly referred to as an REU experience, and this is actually our first year. So we received the grant and then had our first round of applicants, and we selected basically 7 undergrads from across the United States.
I go to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
Illinois Wesleyan University. Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts.
University of Puget Sound in Tacoma, Washington.
Iowa State University.
The University of Connecticut. Southeastern Oklahoma State University.
The 7 undergrads spent 10 weeks in Oklahoma focusing on stream restoration.
So my project is assessing the overall stability of the restored stream here at Cow Creek. Sediment moving through the stream may drop out at certain points, or it may be picked up at certain points. And so sometimes we have what we call an unstable stream, where the banks are very cut to steep angles and can pose risk just for falling down them, or you can have your land being eaten away by an unstable stream.
I put some metal stakes in the ground, and well, actually in the water they were floating, and I attached a bunch of electrodes to the stakes, and basically this machine measured the resistivity at all of those points.
You don't think about Oklahoma a lot. A lot of students won't think about Oklahoma as maybe a place for stream restoration or a place where they want to come to do water and environmental research. But Oklahoma is a great place to do water-related research because it is such a diverse state.
This has been an extremely multifaceted experience for me. Coming here and getting the access to work with professors so closely and have them really give you their attention is something that you rarely find, even at some smaller schools. To get that level of investment is just amazing. On the other side of it, I've had just a fantastic time with the people that I've met here. We had such a tight crew, the mentors and the students alike, and have gotten to do so many fun things. I think the balance of that really focused scientific work with that just great social summer fun experience would definitely be a reason I'd recommend this program.
So this has been amazing because I'm just used to doing physics, doing math, some lab stuff, but all inside, no field work. So this is really turning it all around.
I think the field component of education is really important. I think it's really cool to get the opportunity to not just, see diagrams on a chalkboard and sort of think about how systems are working, but come out into the environment and see how all of the environmental conditions around us interplay to create the relationships that we call science.
The REU students also took time to show select Oklahoma high school students how the applied sciences that they're working on in this stream can actually be fun.
Well, see, in the book you just see pictures. You don't actually get to feel them or anything. It's just pages. But like in real life you get to touch them and like you get to see how they feel, and it's just way cooler. I had lots of fun. I met tons of new people and I got to come to OSU and play in water. It's really just about giving them those opportunities to not only interact with these guys as undergraduates, somebody that's a few years advanced from them. They can ask those questions about college and those type of things, but then just the opportunity to put a pair of waders on and get in the creek and run some piece of equipment that maybe they don't even know what it really does, but at the same time it's something they're not going to forget.
I would say science is cool because it's a way of understanding your surroundings. Like, I love to be able to go outside and know what trees are and know what birds I'm listening to. I really think that those are kind of important things that a lot of people just like shrug off as part of the greater environmental sphere, but I think we live in the environment, so we need to understand it more. So I think the research aspect of that scientific process is equally as important. So yeah, I would say science is pretty cool.
That'll do it for us this week. A reminder, SUNUP will be off the air for the next couple of weeks for special programming on OETA. And we'll see you next time on SUNUP.